Hi, I'm Kathleen Byram. I'm author of Conversations with Dawnkey, A Bipolar Journey. I'm going to be reading to you today from the chapter December 2012. This was when I became psychotic. And I was reading to you about the different things I was saying. And I said there are so many, it just goes on and on and on. I'll pick up from there. Remember AP? I said he was in the intelligence, and I think he did something to us. One time he went out inside the building and left Dad outside in the car. And Dad thought he saw a spaceship, but never told anyone. I said he should tell AP. He was going to call him and decided against it. I think he did call him, and AP made him forget. Also, AP talked Dad into being interested in Amway once, but Dad got over it. Now check out Amway. A cult? Amway screwed with me and C, too. Come to think of it, and I remember the guy of the pair was named R and looked exactly like this creepy R on my other FB who did weird shit. This is exhausting. I need to quit spiraling and do something. Do you have a prisoner locked up that you could release? I sense that could be the key here. Reading all this gives me a headache. Absolute insanity if anyone doubted it before. This is what it was like to be insane. I'm sharing this with you in this way because it's the most severe example of my psychosis, and I truly want everyone to understand how serious it was. Sometimes I think people think I sit at home on my butt and don't do anything to contribute to society. There's a reason I have a diagnosis of schizoaffective. Now I'm getting into a new subject I should tackle on a different essay. Back to psychosis. I remember thinking Mom and Dad were Mr. and Mrs. God. I somehow thought I had been reincarnated again and again, and was Eve, was Mary, I wasn't sure even which, was the Mona Lisa and Anne Frank. There was no logic involved. At one point I was convinced I was thinking in binary. This was the deepest hell I experienced. I cannot explain to you why I felt this was so hellish, just that it was so. Hell doesn't have to be burning, it can be mental hell too. I remember the day the police came. I just remembered the watch. The pocket watch our friend gave me for Christmas. It was a lovely gold or brass-colored pocket watch. She had attached a glorious octopus on the front and a ruby-colored crystal in the center. It was amazing. She also gave me, and I just remembered this, a kind of round-shaped container for beads. I was convinced it was a tesseract, and if I recall correctly, I thought the watch would help me time travel. I was thrilled with her thoughtfulness at these gifts. I am sure she took my overexuberance as just my natural excitement when I'm given a gift. Back to police day. I remembered that I had it in my head that our friend Art was pulling a Manchurian Candidate deal on my dad and calling him and hypnotizing him, basically. Now stop for a minute and think how ludicrous this is. How could Dad be God and also be tricked and hypnotized by Art? It made no sense. No one was there to question me, though, because they did not know these crazy thoughts. So I went and got Dad's phone and removed the battery and hid it. Now this may not seem like such a big deal, But if you've read about our relationship, you'd understand that normally I would have to be out of my mind to do something like that to my father's property. And I was. Dad was very anal about the phones. He quickly discovered his missing phone. I cannot remember if he shouted my name and beat on my door when he discovered the missing phone. I may have stayed in there a bit, causing him alarm. At any rate, I finally answered my bedroom door, and I matter-of-factly explained what I had done and why. At some point, they also found out I had stabbed my CPAP machine's computer chip. I had taken a sword off my wall and decided I was saving the world. I cannot remember the exact details. I remember at some time lying in bed at night and thinking somehow evil could see me and I had to remain in the dark. I somehow did something in the dark, and it may have been the stabbing of the chip while thinking someone was watching. As an aside, I also think I was naked. I had to be naked to do it, if you can imagine. It was terrifying. I did this, brought on this terror, because I thought I had to save the world. I would say when I explained to my dismayed mother what I had done, that is probably when they called the doctor. The doctor, in turn, said to call the police. The police were nice. I was shockingly unterrified. In fact, I was exasperated and informed them that they should take a look at my father's room, with all the knives covering the walls. They sort of glossed over this suggestion. They were kind and courteous and said I could go to the hospital with them or my parents, so I chose my parents. I really should have been hospitalized. I was not. What happened next even astounded the great big old hospital aide who was there to protect the situation. That is, when I started to get annoyed, he was there. My father was terrified to watch me snap at the doctor and tell her not to touch me, I believe. I did not like this doctor, did not trust her, and felt very paranoid. I sat on the gurney and begged my mother not to let them take me away. I was afraid. I didn't know what I was afraid of. I convinced both my mother and doctor to give me a pill and let me take it. The aide kept saying over and over he'd never seen anybody come in like that and then get to go back home. I kept saying knowingly, because being all delusional, I felt all special and important. I know. I do not know why they trusted me so, but they gave me the pill and I drank, but managed somehow or another to let it stick in my mouth until I got outside in the car. I slowly and very carefully unpacked it from my mouth. Some had dissolved. I would take the medication as I promised her, but not that day. That day I was terrified of what the medication would do to me. I want to impress on you all that none of this had to make sense to me. I was in a psychotic fog. I was not reasoning properly. I thought Jesus was my brother. Maybe I got that part right. The next chapter is COVID and Trump and death. I want to thank you for listening. And if you have any comments or thoughts that were brought up by what I've said, please share them with me in the comments. And like and subscribe if you'd like. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.